What's up, guys? I am Benny Adams, and I am back, and I am so excited to be talking to these three guys. These three guys are the creators of the hit Netflix series Cobra Kai. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm John Hurwitz.
I'm Josh Heald.
I am Hayden Schlossberg.
You guys,
and we are something.
The creators of Cobra Kai.
The creators of Cobra Kai. And I just have to say thank you guys so much for coming on and doing this interview. I watched season 3. It blew my mind. I watched season 2 also. And when I watched season 2, I was like, I don't know how they're going to top season 2. I watched season 3 and I'm like, they did it. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. So I just want to go back to the drawing board, back to the beginning before there was a Cobra Kai. How did the three of you get this amazing idea?
It started just with our friendship for many years. I mean, the three of us have been friends for over 25 years. We Hayden and I met in high school. Josh, we met our freshman year in college, and we bonded over the Karate Kid way back when. We bonded over comedy, we bonded over movies, but the Karate Kid was one of those movies that separately we all loved. And beyond the Karate Kid, we all loved William Zabka. We loved him in the Karate Kid as Johnny, but we also loved him as a bully in several other movies in the 1980s. So these were big topics of discussion in our early friendship. And we graduated college. We were living in Los Angeles as young screenwriters. Hayden and I lived together. Josh lived down the block. And every night after writing all day, we would watch movies together. And, we were always talking about sort of, what happened to, the bully from your high school and that kind of story. And we were watching this Karate Kid DVD. There was a special feature, a new DVD came out with all these special features. And we saw an interview with Billy Zabka on there where he was just sort of talking about his approach to the Johnny character. And he was saying how he didn't view himself as a jerk or like the bully in any sort of way. He was just another kid in the high school he had 1 year to make it work. He was trying to be good. He was trying to, get back together with his girlfriend. And then this guy moves to town and, starts things with him. So that was sort of his approach. And when we heard that, we thought, wouldn't it be great to do a movie through Johnny's perspective where you could explore what happens to the bully? And we would call it Cobra Kai. And it was just one of those sort of like, pipe dream ideas back then. And we're like, we knew enough about the film business that, the studios aren't going to just, let us make a movie with these actors, from the 80s and, put them back on the big screen that way. So we just kind of let it die. And then the Jaden Smith movie happens, and then a few years pass, and suddenly we're in this world of streaming. And we're driving down the Sunset Strip and we see billboards with, Fuller House. You see Kimmy Gibbler on a billboard. And I'm like, I loved Kimmy Gibbler, but Kimmy Gibbler's not starring in movies right now, yet she's on a billboard. Hey, if they're able to do Fuller House, maybe we could do something with the Karate Kid. We could finally do that movie Cobra Kai, but let's do it as a TV series. So we thought, once we got into it creatively, we started thinking, wow, like there's so much more story to tell, not only Johnny's story and Daniel's story, but we could introduce a whole new generation of kids and, that we're following their own sort of Karate Kid stories going forward.
I love that. And I love how you brought up the fact that, there are other shows that were movies that came out way back when, and they're being brought back to a whole new generation of fans. Was it easy convincing the actors to come back to portray their original roles?
It was, we knew it would be a little easier to convince Billy because I had a relationship with him already. John and Hayden had, knew him. And I knew personally that Johnny Lawrence kind of haunted him. He carried Johnny with him, in terms of people on the street, shouting a line from Cobra Kai to him and people remembering the movie as, Johnny's the bad guy. And, from Billy's standpoint, Johnny arced in that movie. He finally saw his sensei for the monster he was at the end of that movie, and certainly at the beginning of Karate Kid 2. So why is he, kind of haunted with this bad guy image? Well, he played a few other, bad guy characters in the 80s as well. So I knew that we all knew that he would relish the opportunity to kind of sink his teeth into a deeper dissection of this character and who he became. Ralph, we didn't know. We had never met him. From what little we did know, he had swatted away any invitation to engage with anything that had to do with the Karate Kid in a long form kind of way. But we led with our passion as we did with everybody, and said, give us a shot. Let us sit down for lunch, and whether it's a half hour or 4 hours, let us talk about the show. Let us tell you what we want to do, because we want to do this together, and we don't want to force our will upon you. And I think right from the beginning, Ralph saw that we were coming at this from a unique place from than some of the projects he had been pitched over the years. He had a lot of questions. We had a lot of answers. He had a lot of thoughtful things to offer. And it really became a great partnership with both of those guys from the beginning. And, piece by piece, Martin Kove was raring to go. And, just generally inviting actors and performers from the original franchise to step back into those characters on this show. It's been almost overwhelmingly excitement in terms of getting to do the deeper dive with some of these characters.
That's amazing. And yeah, your passion definitely proved its point, because I was reading earlier today that Cobra Kai has surpassed more than 41 million households. More than 41 million households have viewed Cobra Kai, which is huge. That is a huge number for Netflix. Did you guys think that Cobra Kai would have this huge impact on people? And why do you think it has such a huge impact on people?
We did think it had the potential to have this kind of success. And, when we were coming up with the show, we had made other movies in the past. And the big challenge is finding something that cuts through the marketplace. There's so many different forms of entertainment now, with all the different platforms and channels, and a million movies every day come out. So we really were trying to think of something that could cut through the clutter. And we knew, at least for our age group, that the Karate Kid was a huge piece of IP. And Hollywood, is obsessed with this term IP, because the Marvel movies have done well, and the Star Wars movies have done well. But most of the kids that we knew growing up in the 1980s, they watched Star Wars, but they also watched the Karate Kid. And Mr. Miyagi was this huge, famous character. We thought, as famous, if not more famous, than half of the Marvel characters that they make movies out of. So we thought that there was a recognizability of this franchise that you don't get with most IP. And we also felt we had a story to tell, that it wasn't just, hey, let's find a way to, bring this to life. It was what John said earlier. We thought people like to know, like, what happened to that bully from their high school, and we could play this out in a new way. So we knew we weren't just going to exploit the franchise. So at the very least, it's the type of thing, when you have a piece of IP that's recognizable, some people may just look at it for morbid curiosity. And our hope was, even if they do that, they'll see it and want to stay for the storytelling that we have. We also knew that we were going to set up these younger characters, that it would be accessible to a younger audience, not just the people who grew up with the Karate Kid. So we, our initial idea for this story, we felt that there was huge potential for it. And we thought it would be totally up Netflix's alley, especially when we saw the success of Stranger Things. We felt, oh, you know what? This isn't exactly the same thing, but it's in some ways doing the same thing in terms of nostalgia. And when we went out with it as a pitch, we thought Netflix was going to, buy it. But then all of a sudden, YouTube Red came in and gave us this offer that we couldn't refuse, a full season without having to write anything. And, we took it, and it was hugely successful for YouTube Red's standards. But then when they changed their business model, and we knew, like, okay, if this, with the success of the show on YouTube Red, if this could end up on Netflix with the platform they have and the audience they have globally, this could just be an enormous thing. And we were really pushing for it to happen, and luckily it did. And now, knock on wood, everything, is happening the way that we had hoped.
I think I was just going to say the bigger surprise, I think, for us, because I think like intellectually we thought a lot of people would want to watch the show, but I think it's the emotional connection to the show is the thing that I think has been even more surprising for us. Just the amount of passion and love for these characters and the story and how it relates to their own lives, and sort of that connection, which we started to feel when it was at YouTube, but it's just a whole new level now that it's on Netflix. There are certain things that you, in your wildest dreams, and that may make sense to you that could happen, but actually feeling it and having people reach out in the ways that they do about what the show means to them is at a level beyond what we could have ever expected.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, the emotional connection, because this show has captivated not only the younger generation, but it's also it's also got people who are older into this show. I'm watching season 1, I'm watching season 2, and I find myself getting teary-eyed from watching these episodes. Mm-hmm. And it's just these lessons that you learn from this show are not only lessons for teenagers, but they're also lessons for adults as well. And that's what I love what you guys have done with this show. It's not only for the younger generation, but it's also for the older generation. There are so many touching moments in each and every episode, and I love that.
Well, we try to make it so there's so many access points for who you're following and who you might be to come to this show as an audience member. You can be, on the 12 or 13-year-old age, and you're looking at, the high schoolers, and you're starting to look at content that's a little bit slightly more mature than what's being marketed to you as a 12-year-old. But you could also be a 25 or a 35-year-old and still be engaged with, those high school storylines. And it might be slightly less edgy than, what the traditional high school, soapy story might be on another channel, but it pulls you in. You might be, 45 or 55 and feel like, society has forgotten about you and you don't matter. And you find a point of view there. You might be somebody who's lost somebody and feel like you've lost your way, because of that. And you'll find a character for you there as well. There's somebody hiding around every corner that feels like this show was made for you. And that's just because of the multi-generational aspect of the show. And because there's this rivalry that was rooted so long ago that has relatable themes that have bled over into the contemporary story, it feels like it's intentionally meant to feel somewhat timeless, that, you accept the fact that karate matters, and that's pretty much it. If karate matters, here, and everything else is a little bit below it, then all of these relationships, all of these rivalries, all of these love triangles, all of this tension, has value, has impact. And it might get dinged on occasion for being a little cheesy, but, we are happy with that because it also gives you goosebumps, and it also, can make you emotional, and it makes you jump out of your seat and pump your fist and get excited. And, those are all the kind of pieces of the show that we love writing toward.
Yeah, I can't remember the last show that I watched that gave me chills throughout multiple episodes, like season 1, season 2, and season 3. And it's so funny. I was talking to my roommate who was a huge fan of the show, and he told me after watching season 1, he was like, I wanted to take karate lessons after watching it. And I was like, I wanted to take karate lessons also. Like, that's how much of an impact this show has. I wanted to talk about season 3 for a little bit. A lot went down during season 3, and it continued during the aftermath, or after what happened during season 2. I wanted to talk about the relationships between some of the characters. First, between Johnny, Miguel, and Robbie. There is a very strained relationship. Miguel, he's in the hospital. You know, he finds out that he might not walk again. Robbie, he's in juvenile hall for what he did to Miguel. And then you have Johnny, who is stuck in between the two. Can you guys explain or go more in depth of those three characters and their relationship?
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I think for Johnny, he views, I think at the beginning of the series, Robbie as something that he just missed out on as a father, like that his son's, a teenager. He wasn't there in the formative years of childhood and, wasn't there because he was sort of he was in a bad place in his life and was afraid to be a dad. And, I think he realizes, at the start of our series that had a big negative effect on Robbie. And it's just part of the thing that makes him feel bad. But then, having Miguel, enter his life gave him a second chance. And so by season 3, it's everything is bad because he lost. It feels like he lost his second chance with both of the kids, his surrogate son and his real son. And so it's just, he's at a rock bottom. I mean, we saw him at rock bottom in episode 1 of season 1. At the episode 1 of season 3, he's like found a deeper bottom. And, I think, what his character needed to learn in season 3 is just that, even if you try to do something right and it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean you stop doing something right. And he learns that from his pastor friend, and he's trying to do both things. He's trying to help both kids, but it's, I think, a little tougher with Robbie because he wasn't there for him, and so I think he's got a bigger bridge to cross with Robbie. Whereas I think with Miguel in season 3, they're on the outs at the beginning of the season, but it's a little easier to get them back together. But then, of course, the closer he gets to Miguel, the more challenging it is to come back to Robbie, because Robbie, views Miguel as his rival. And so, it becomes a little bit of that like love triangle, but not a romantic love triangle, like a father, two sons love triangle. And you see that, our hope is that people see that, Miguel and Robbie are kind of like Johnny and Daniel in different ways. They have this external thing that's kind of made them rivals. And Johnny is caught in between, trying to be the best person he could be.
Right. And I love what you guys are doing with Robbie, because it feels like it's mirroring what Daniel went through when he joined Cobra Kai. Was that what you guys were going for?
You mean Robbie at the end of the season joining Cobra Kai at the end? Yeah, we wanted to take that Robbie character. He's been on a ride. Like, it's funny. We talk a lot with Tanner Buchanan about Robbie and how his character sort of has made his way through the cast in a very interesting manner. That he's Johnny's son, but he spent time with Daniel. And he's, spent a little time with Johnny. He spent time with the different kids, and now he's here with Crease. So we get a whole other look and a whole other group that he's with. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where his path goes from here in season 4, because he's season 3 showed you he doesn't exactly trust Johnny or Daniel any further, and the advice that Crease gave him served him well in juvie, and perhaps that's the spot where he belongs, and we'll find out. That's
the thing about Cobra Kai. We don't just view it as the evil karate. We view it as a mind-body technique that it's like a cult, but it's, if you fully drink the Kool-Aid, it does solve a couple of the problems that some of these kids have with self-hate. And that's something that we see Robbie has as a result of Johnny not being there. He blamed himself. And I think we have at the end of season 3, he says, he he says to Johnny in the last episode, Sensei Crease is right. I can't be my own worst enemy, but you can be. It's like Cobra Kai has a way of taking all that negative energy that you have inside that can make you hate yourself as a teenager and push it out, and use it to empower yourself. And it, as a result, you don't feel pain, you don't feel fear. And it's like a drug. And I think that's where the appeal for Robbie at the end of the scene or at the end of the season to be there. But of course, from an external standpoint, it's like it definitely an overlap with Anakin and the dark side for sure.
Definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned that as well. So, Robbie, he's now with John Crease. And I loved, even though he's the big bad this season, I loved John Crease because I love that we got a backstory on this guy. And we see that he wasn't this big bad guy when, he first started out. Can you talk a little bit more about his character and why you guys decided to go that route with him when it comes to showing his backstory?
Well, we love peeling back the layers of any character on this show and not writing distinct antagonists. We really like writing a lot of people who can be the hero of their own journey. And Crease is a tough one, to crack in the beginning. He's a guy that we've only seen as, bad and negative in the movies. So when he shows back up into Johnny's life at the end of that first season, where Johnny moved the needle, from, he evolved from here to here, Crease challenges that, big time. And Johnny has a lot of demons that he has to get through to even consider accepting an apology and, accepting this father figure back into his life who had disappointed him so much. And there were great parallels that we were able to play in season 2 with Johnny's strained relationship, with Crease, as it compares to his strained relationship with his own son. Entering season 3, we just wanted to continue to peel back the layers of Crease and finally get to how does an explanation and understanding, of how somebody comes up with no mercy as their distinctly life is black or white, philosophy toward every single problem, because that's not a healthy situation. Right. And it's not something that feels like, oh, if we just understood it, I'm sure we'd love it. So it wasn't our intent to say, once you understand this, you're going to love Crease and he'll be the hero. But it is to say, everybody's life experience has led them to a point. And for Crease, it was the trauma of, going to war, meeting the mentor that was provided to him, dealing with the circumstances that were just the circumstances, and really finding that for that moment, life was black or white. And, how does somebody go through that kind of trauma and come back to, the society where people are not being, tortured and forced to kill one another? It almost felt like a protective coat that he put over himself, is if I just take that mentality with me and assign it to everything I approach and, my way of teaching, I can protect people from being vulnerable. And it really is this kind of armor that, that he's put on, and he leads with it. It's a way of getting an understanding of who Crease is and what makes him tick. And in season 3, especially, it provided additional stakes of, seeing that he's capable of killing. And, when push comes to shove, no mercy felt like it took over, everything else. It got in the way of his empathy for his mentor back in the war. And that just gives you increased stakes with any relationship that he has on this show going forward, knowing that, he is capable of choosing, the words on the wall over the people in front of him.
Right. And it takes you back to that really important message that no one is really just evil. They weren't born with being evil. It's how they were raised or how they were taught. And all of these characters can be defined by that. You have John, who we just talked about. We see his upbringing. And then you have someone like Hawk, who in season 1, he was the nerdy type of guy, and then he transformed into this whole complete new character, and then he gets mentored by Crease, and we see how he is. So I love that message that you guys are sending out, that it's who pretty much who is around you, who teaches you to be the best person that you can be.
Right. No, Mr. Miyagi says no such thing, bad student, only bad teacher. And we, he says it, but we don't really get to see it in the movie. We don't get to see Johnny's life, and so that's definitely a theme that we took. A message of Mr. Miyagi's that we explore on the show.
Right. And so I wanted to talk real quick about these fight scenes, because the fight scene, season 2 finale in the school, blew my mind. Literally, I watched that 3 or 4 times. Like, I would rewind Netflix, watch it again. I'm like, this is epic. I don't know how they're gonna up the ante on this one. Watch season 3, watch the finale. Huge fight scene in the house, multiple huge fight scenes. How do you guys do it? How do you guys come up with these amazing scenes?
It starts from a place of story, believe it or not. We're always, taking these characters and sending them along their journeys, which we know we're going to create conflict with a variety of other characters. And it's sort of building those stakes. We always say that on our show, we don't want to have a fight scene for the sake of having a fight scene. Mm-hmm. It always needs to come from a natural conflict between characters. And we do know that we're usually building towards something big and exciting by the end of the season. When we did shoot that high school scene, there was a part of us that was like, all right, how are we going to top that? So when entering, season 3, I think we had set ourselves up in a place where we saw the potential for the conflict between the characters, for the teenagers. And I think we knew that we were going to want to have another, large scale, rumble between these kids. We knew that we didn't want to go all the way to a tournament that season. But the bigger thing was sort of bringing Johnny and Daniel together. And how are we going to do that? And we love this idea of Johnny and Daniel both fighting together against Crease, in a sense, even though their fights were one after another there. This concept of Daniel LaRusso having to come to Johnny's aid there and sort of creating this new bond between them going forward. But on top of that, we knew we were telling this, Vietnam story. So it's sort of all kind of dovetailed in beautifully, where while we can have this present day fight between, former, teacher and student in Johnny and Crease, to see Crease in his own fight many years ago, where we're seeing him and his teacher, and how that fight way back when was having an impact all these years later in John Crease's life with a new generation. So it started with story, but we knew we needed to do something spectacular, and it was quite an experience shooting all of those fight scenes in the final couple weeks.
Yeah, we're responsible for like 3 big things with those fight scenes, and it's the emotion of what the character is going through, and making sure that we're feeling the pain, the regret, the anger, the just everything on the faces at the moments that we need to see it. It's the story, making sure that the punches and the kicks and and everything in between have value, and it's not just marking time until we get to the next thing. And some cool shots, we were responsible for making it look awesome from where we're putting the crane, or what we're asking the steady camera to do. From that point on, we collaborate with our stunt coordinators, Hito Koda and Janelle Kerfman, and they are choreographing some of the most spectacular things you're seeing on the screen in terms of those one shots that we are able to to sit back and take all the accolades for in seasons 2 and 3. That is all credit due to our stunt team, our performers who come in on the weekends and run it again, and our Steadicam operators who have to literally avoid getting the crap beat out of them as they're moving through that whole sequence. But it's one of the pleasures is challenging ourselves and our cast and crew to see that we can do things like that.
Yeah, man, those shot scenes were epic. I mean, and I'm not just saying this just to blow you guys up, but those were really, really good shot scenes. I was so impressed. And so season 3 is done. It's wrapped. We've seen season 3, amazing season. What can we expect for season 4? I know you guys can't give too much, but can you give us a little teaser?
It's every season is different but same. I think that we want to not lose touch with why we made the show in the first place. So you can count on the original themes and feels of the Karate Kid in the season. So, when it comes to bullying or it comes to mentor students, and goosebumpy moments, we have all those in store. I would say, coming off of season 3, it was like each season is building and building and building. And, we want to just make sure that we're, not losing touch with, the heart of, of the story. And we're excited that, Johnny and Daniel are together at the end of the season, because that you just could see right away all the potential conflict and comedy that can come with that. And, at the beginning of season 3, we had them all separated and all in a depressed emotional state. Now at the start of season 4, it's like game on, and you have a real fun energy, and a lot of these characters that you want to see together are together. And so, whereas I think season 3 was started from an emotional place and built to where we ended, I think season 4 starts with like, okay, it's the tournament is coming, and we all have to be ready for this.
That's gonna be so epic. I can't wait for that. I want to talk about so we saw Allie. She made her grand return during the finale. What other characters would you like to see come on the show that haven't been on yet, that are in the Karate Kid universe?
Yeah, no, we always talk about the Miyagi verse. So any movie that had Mr. Miyagi in it, Pat Morita playing Mr. Miyagi, any character in those films can return. So, there's some big ones out there, and even some smaller ones that we get excited about. We don't like to tip our hand as to who's going to return, but needless to say, all of the major characters that you could imagine are characters that we've talked about. We love the idea of bringing these characters back in, but only in a context where it works within today's story. So you never find on the show where suddenly a character is showing up and it just doesn't really make sense. There always needs to be a reason for the character to be there, for them to show up, and for them to impact the present day story. In all of our lives, there are people that come and go and then come back again. Yeah. And sometimes, later in life, you have a new relationship with a character that or with a person that impacted you when you were much younger. And sometimes you have the exact same relationship all over again. So we'll see. I know I'm not being specific here, but that's simply because we don't like to give away potential spoilers. But let your minds imagine it all and know that we're doing the same over here.
Right. And I completely understand when you say that. You did an interview recently where you were talking about expanding the Karate Kid universe. Are you working on specific spin-offs, or do you have spin-offs in mind that you want to work on?
We have a lot of spin-offs in mind that we want to work on. We look at this franchise as somebody might look at Marvel or the Star Wars universe, where when we were kids, like Hayden was saying earlier, Mr. Miyagi to us as a kid was a much bigger figure in our lives than Iron Man was. And look what they've been able to do with the Marvel franchise, starting with one character and then, reaching into the past and pulling some more. That's not to say, we're thinking of, splitting up every single character in the Miyagi verse and everyone gets their own shared universe show. But we have ideas that are big in scope. We have ideas that are, more dramatic than comedic. We have ideas that are, not necessarily live action. And we're discussing a lot of different ones with our various partners at Sony and Netflix, but can't really comment on, anything that may or may not be coming, but just know it's on our minds all the time.
That's amazing. That gets me so excited. And this last question I have for you guys, and I don't know if you guys can answer it, but would you ever pull a Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse where, let's say, you have the characters from the Karate Kid, you have the characters from the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank, and then you have the 2010 Karate Kid. Would you guys ever do something like that, or would you even think about doing something?
I would say not on Cobra Kai. Okay. I think in Cobra Kai we're really continuing the Karate Kid as the fans of that original movie and the sequels. This is a spiritual sequel to those movies, and that but I do think that that whole spider multiverse concept is interesting, and there is, beyond the Miyagi verse, there is this Karate Kid multiverse that does have it does have the Jackie Chan movie. It has Marty Cove doing these Koala Kai commercials.
It has an animated pagoda that follows, Daniel and Miyagi around.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, anything. I mean, it would. We don't ever want to say no to anything. Look, we know that the Jackie Chan movie was huge. That's its own thing. We made a reference to Jackie Chan in season 1, so the actor, we made it clear that the characters in our universe, in the Miyagi verse, know of Jackie Chan, so it wasn't a shared universe. But as things happen, maybe universes can collide and characters can come in, and all of a sudden, there's the Karate Kid animated series gets thrown into the mix. I don't see that happening in the short term, though. But anything is possible.
Hey, that's right. Definitely anything is possible, and you guys have proven that. I just want to say thank you guys again so much for coming on and doing this. You pulled off an amazing season. So congratulations, you guys. People are loving this. I cannot wait for season 4 because I know it's going to be amazing. But thank you guys so much again.
Thank you very much.
Great speaking with you.
Nice talking with you.
All right, guys. And thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. See you later.